Welcome to your reset with Christiane Piano, where the purpose is to support you in releasing all that you are not, so the truth of who you really are can emerge. This is accomplished through working with the BodyMind from an ontological perspective. We use various modalities to support you in supporting yourself exactly where you are, so that you may return to an experience of wholeness and ease, moment by moment. Deep reflection is one of the greatest tools through which to do this. To take a moment, to pause, assess, reflect, and literally and figuratively reset, come back to center, and move back into your one and precious life with increased clarity and purpose. Hello and welcome. This is Christiane Piano, and this week I really wanted to dive into something that I hear coming up all the time for many people in so many different situations. Guilt. Yep, here we go. I invite you to think for a moment about the last time you felt that little twinge, that weight of guilt. Maybe it was about taking an extra hour for yourself instead of doing laundry. Or perhaps it was about not responding to an email or a text message right away. It's that feeling, that sense that we haven't quite measured up to something. We often talk about valuing ourselves, and yet when it comes down to actually doing things that nurture us, that's where things can get tricky. If you have not yet listened to the episode on self-worth, I would suggest doing that, either pausing here now and coming back to this, or perhaps after you listen to this episode. Anyway, let's get back to it. So when things get tricky, it's like we get caught in this push-pull, if you will, feeling guilty if we do take care of ourselves, and maybe even a different kind of guilt if we don't. It can prove challenging, so let's explore this feeling of guilt a little deeper, and maybe, just maybe, we can start to give ourselves permission to prioritize our well-being without all that baggage. So what exactly is guilt? It's that internal sense, almost a gut feeling, that tells us we've gone against what we believe is right, our values, our own internal compass. It nudges us to want to make things right, to repair or correct something. It's not always comfortable, and our first instinct might be to avoid it. But when we're willing to listen, it can actually be a powerful driver for growth. It helps our actions to become aligned with what truly matters to us. Now, it's really important to make a distinction here, because there's another feeling that often gets mixed up with guilt, and that's shame. While they might feel similar in their discomfort, they actually are quite different in their core message. Guilt is about something we did or didn't do. Shame, on the other hand, goes much, much deeper. Think of it this way. Guilt is that uncomfortable feeling you get when you believe you've done something wrong. It's focused on the action, the behavior. It's like your internal guidance system saying, hey, that wasn't quite in line with what you believe in. Shame, on the other hand, goes much deeper. It's not just about what you did. It starts to touch on who you think you are as a person. Shame whispers or sometimes shouts, "I am bad." It's a much more toxic and all-encompassing feeling that can really chip away at our sense of worthiness. To give you a concrete example, let's think about making a mistake at work. You might feel guilty if you missed a deadline or sent an email with a typo. That's guilt about the action. But if that feeling spirals and you start thinking, "I'm such an incompetent employee," or "I can't do anything right," that's moving into shame, a negative judgment about who you think you are. Understanding this difference is really key because guilt, in a healthy way, can actually motivate us to learn and grow, to apologize and make amends. Shame, however, tends to be paralyzing and can lead to all sorts of unhelpful behaviors. This brings me to some insights of a Dr. David Spector, a psychologist from Psychology Care in Melbourne, Australia. He has some really compelling thoughts on the crucial role that guilt plays, not just individually, but in our wider society. He suggests that our tendency to avoid or deny guilt can actually fuel some pretty harmful actions, like hate crimes and dehumanizing others. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what our world would be like if we were all taught to really acknowledge and understand our sense of guilt and use it constructively to fuel our own growth. Dr. Spector points out that we are undeniably having a negative impact on our planet through our everyday choices. He proposes that if we truly confronted the consequences of our daily actions, it would likely bring up feelings of guilt, and that this guilt could actually drive more responsible behavior. He also makes a powerful point about crime. He argues that a detachment from guilt is almost necessary to commit harmful acts. If individuals were more connected to this sense, criminal behavior would carry a much heavier emotional and moral weight. And he even questions justice systems, suggesting that by outsourcing the judgment of guilt to legal authorities, we might inadvertently prevent offenders from fully experiencing their own guilt, seeking punishment as the only penance. His vision is of a system where those who commit crimes not only serve their time, but also truly confront and process their guilt, believing that this internal reckoning could inspire real change. Furthermore, Dr. Spector offers a thought-provoking perspective on how we as a society respond to trauma victims. He suggests that labeling those who have suffered abuse or neglect as disordered or mentally ill might be a way for us to avoid facing our own potential complicity or our feelings of helplessness in their suffering. He believes that acknowledging our capacity to inflict pain and our inability to always fix it can be deeply uncomfortable and guilt-provoking, leading us to collectively deny this reality by medicalizing their distress, a form of, as he sees it, scapegoating. He raises important questions about the message this sends to those who are hurting and whether this denial contributes to the stigma surrounding mental health. Ultimately, Dr. Spector believes that our capacity for guilt is fundamental to our humanity and our connection to each other. He sees feeling guilty as a sign of empathy and wisdom, and that by acknowledging our mistakes and embracing guilt in a healthy way, we can actually foster a more peaceful and compassionate world. His conclusion is that things like war, hatred, and violence really can't thrive in individuals who are actively engaged with their sense of guilt, that core of their humanity. So, with this understanding of the difference between guilt and shame, and Dr. Spector's broader perspective in mind, let's bring it back to how this plays out in our own lives. In those everyday moments where that feeling of guilt creeps in. Think about it. How often do we find ourselves feeling guilty about things we perhaps shouldn't? Like taking that time for ourselves as we talked about at the beginning, or saying no to a request when we're feeling overwhelmed. These aren't actions that necessarily go against our core values, but they can still trigger that uncomfortable feeling. And I think a lot of that comes down to fully owning our choices and our needs, particularly around taking care of ourselves. This leads us to the practice of what I like to call owning it. And what I mean by that is being willing to really look at the drivers behind our experiences, the root causes that are shaping how we feel and what we do. When we truly care about something or someone, whether it's a precious object or a loved one, we naturally take good care of it or them. Well, the same absolutely applies to ourselves. If we truly value our own well-being, that will naturally show up in the choices we make around self-care. But this is where the guilt often kicks in. I hear it often. Who am I to give myself 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon away from everyone else? Or, how can I possibly justify taking even 15 minutes each day just for me when there are so many other responsibilities? Whether it's work, family, social commitments, the list goes on and on. We're often bombarded with messages, both internal and external, that prioritize everything and everyone else above our own needs. And this is where that distinction between guilt and shame becomes so important. Feeling guilty about taking time for yourself is often rooted in a belief that you should be doing something else, that you're somehow neglecting your responsibilities. But that's about the action of taking time. If that guilt then spirals into, I'm a selfish person for needing this, that shame creeping in, attacking your very sense of who you think you are. Owning it means being willing to reflect on those drivers. Why do you feel guilty for taking that time? Is it a deeply held belief that your worth comes from constant doing and giving to others? Is it a fear of disappointing someone? Is it an old message you've internalized over the years? When we start to understand the why behind the guilt, we can begin to disentangle it from shame and make more conscious choices. Taking responsibility for your actions or even your inactions isn't about beating yourself up or identifying with those moments as who you are. There's a really important separation there. No one is perfect. We all make choices we might do differently with the benefit of hindsight and growth. Owning it is about using our everyday lives and the choices we make as mirrors, helping us to live more fully in alignment with the lives we truly want to create for ourselves. It's about getting clear on our own values, even if they differ from the world around you, and using that clarity to channel your energy into building that life, moment by moment. So how does this owning it actually look in practice? Well, it starts with a willingness to get curious about those feelings of guilt. When that familiar pang arises as you consider taking some time for yourself, instead of immediately pushing it away or succumbing to it, try asking yourself, what's really going on here? For example, if you're thinking about taking an hour for a relaxing bath on a Sunday and that wave of guilt washes over you, you might start by noticing the thoughts that accompany it. Are you thinking things like, I should be doing laundry? Or, My partner will think I'm being lazy, or the kids need my attention, or there are so many other productive things I could be doing, especially if the idea for an hour for a relaxing bath happens midweek. Once you identify those thoughts, the next step is to gently question them. Are these thoughts absolute truths? Are they based on external pressures or your own deeply held values? Let's take the thought, I should be doing laundry. Is it truly an emergency that the laundry needs to be done right this minute? Or is it a societal expectation, a feeling of needing to be constantly productive? Perhaps the laundry can wait an hour, and you'll actually be more present and patient with your family afterwards because you took that time to recharge. Or consider the thought, my partner will think I'm being lazy. Is that based on past experiences or assumptions? Have you actually communicated your needs for downtime and self-care? Maybe your partner would appreciate a more relaxed and rejuvenated you. This process of gentle inquiry is key. It's not about judging yourself for having these thoughts, but rather about shining a light on them and understanding where they might be coming from. Often, these feelings of guilt are rooted in old beliefs or external messages we've internalized over time. We might have grown up in environments where self-care was seen as selfish, or we might be constantly bombarded by a culture that equates worth with productivity. When we start to unpack these drivers, we can begin to see that perhaps the guilt we're feeling isn't actually aligned with our own core values. Maybe, deep down, you value your well-being and recognize that taking care of yourself actually enables you to be more present and effective in all other areas of your life. So, as we've explored today, guilt can be a valuable internal compass, gently guiding us back to our values when we feel we've strayed. But when it becomes entangled with shame, or when it prevents us from honoring our own needs and well-being, it becomes a hindrance rather than a help. The journey of untangling guilt, understanding its roots, and differentiating it from shame is a continuous one. It requires self-awareness, a willingness to be curious about our inner world, and the courage to challenge those ingrained beliefs that no longer serve us. Please remember, taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's essential. It's not an indulgence, but a fundamental act of self-respect that ultimately benefits all aspects of your life and your relationships. By learning to own it, to understand the drivers behind your choices and your guilt, you begin to make more conscious decisions that align with your values and nurture your well-being. It's about progress, not perfection. There will be times when that familiar pang of guilt returns, and that's okay. The key is to meet it with curiosity and compassion rather than judgment. Ask yourself what it's trying to tell you, and then make a conscious choice about how you want to respond. Ultimately, by understanding the nuances of guilt and shame, and by practicing the art of self-compassion, you can begin to release the unnecessary burdens you may be carrying. You can give yourself permission to live more fully, to honor your needs without apology, and to build a life that is both meaningful and nourishing. I will leave you with these words of wisdom by Thich Nhat Hanh. Accepting your body is a very important practice. You are already beautiful as you are. You don't have to be anyone else. When you accept your body and make peace with your body, you have a chance to see your body as your home. You have peace, you have warmth, and you have joy. building a true home within feels wonderful. May you give yourself permission to come home to yourself. May you extend kindness and understanding to yourself. And may you gift yourself the freedom to live in alignment with your values without the weight of unnecessary guilt. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, please feel free to share this episode, like, follow, or subscribe. If you are interested in working with me on any level of body-mind well-being, whether it be through individual body-mind maturation work sessions, perhaps participating in a series, individual privates, or through my video on-demand services, if you have questions, if you would like to engage on any level, feel free to schedule a free 15-minute consult in the appointments section, www.christianepiano.com, or email me directly at growth@christianepiano.com.